For years, the world was told that the marriage between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was a modern fairy tale. A rebellious prince falls in love with an American actress, breaks royal tradition, and chooses love over protocol. Cameras captured the smiles, the carriage ride, the flawless wedding at Windsor, and millions believed they were witnessing history rewritten in real time. But according to claims later raised by investigative author Tom Bower and several royal commentators, there may have been another story unfolding behind palace walls. A story not built on romance alone, but on negotiations, leverage, image protection, and a set of understandings that few people outside the inner circle were ever supposed to discuss publicly. And at the center of that speculation lies one explosive question. Did Harry truly understand the kind of arrangement he was stepping into before he said, "I do"? Long before she became the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle already understood something that many members of the British royal family never fully grasped. Modern celebrity is power. In Hollywood, image is currency. Narrative is survival. Reputation can be monetized, weaponized, and rebuilt over and over again. Meghan had spent years navigating auditions, media appearances, networking circles, public relations strategies, and entertainment contracts. She knew how deals were structured. She knew how public sympathy worked. She understood branding in a way that royal tradition simply did not. To palace insiders who had spent decades protecting a centuries-old institution built on silence and hierarchy, Meghan represented something unfamiliar. She was not entering the royal family as a naive outsider overwhelmed by royal privilege. She was entering it with media instincts already sharpened by years inside the entertainment industry. That difference reportedly created anxiety inside the palace long before the wedding ever happened. Royal marriages are never just personal relationships. They are institutional events tied to wealth, inheritance, global reputation, diplomatic symbolism, and constitutional optics. Every appearance matters. Every interview matters. Every future headline matters. According to royal biographers and commentators, concerns reportedly emerged over how independent Meghan intended to remain after marriage, how financial arrangements would work, and how future disputes could potentially impact the monarchy itself. None of this was unusual in royal history. The monarchy has always relied on private understandings, legal protections, confidential negotiations, and strategic planning. What made this situation different was the modern media environment surrounding Meghan and Harry. They were becoming more than royals. They were becoming global commercial figures. Then came the claims that would ignite years of speculation. In discussions surrounding his investigations into royal conflicts, Tom Bower suggested there were far more complicated conversations taking place behind the scenes than the public realized. Not necessarily a dramatic Hollywood-style secret contract hidden in a vault, but a broader framework of protections, understandings, and contingency planning tied to status, media exposure, finances, and future independence. Over time, internet speculation transformed those rumors into something even darker. The idea that Meghan allegedly secured safeguards that Harry himself may not have fully appreciated in the emotional whirlwind of their relationship. Whether entirely accurate or exaggerated through tabloid culture, the theory exploded online because it touched a deeper fear people had always associated with royalty, that marriages inside palaces are never entirely about love. The timing only intensified the mystery. Almost immediately after the wedding, fractures inside the royal family reportedly began widening. Stories of tension with palace staff emerged. Reports of conflicts between Meghan and other royal members filled British newspapers. Then came the shocking departure from royal duties, the move to California, the interviews, the documentaries, the public accusations, and the transformation of Harry from prince of the institution into critic of the institution. To many observers, it felt less like a marriage entering the royal family and more like a strategic extraction from it. Critics began asking whether Harry had underestimated how quickly royal identity could become entangled with celebrity business, media monetization, and public narrative warfare. What makes this story so fascinating is not whether a literal divorce clause existed. There is no verified public evidence proving the existence of some secret legal trap. The real intrigue lies in the possibility that Harry entered the marriage emotionally while others around him were thinking institutionally. Palace officials reportedly worried about protecting the crown. Media advisors thought about optics. Lawyers thought about liabilities. Meghan understood branding and leverage. And Harry, according to many royal critics, may have been the only person acting primarily out of emotion. That imbalance is what fuels endless speculation to this day. Because if one side viewed the relationship as survival inside a global power structure, while the other viewed it as escape from pain and loneliness, then the marriage may have been built on two entirely different understandings from the very beginning. By the time the world began noticing cracks in the relationship between Prince Harry and the royal family, some palace observers were already convinced the real battle had started long before the public ever saw signs of it. Because inside royal institutions, conflicts are rarely loud in the beginning. They emerge quietly through protocol disagreements, staff reshuffles, media leaks, and subtle shifts in influence. And according to several royal commentators, the palace allegedly realized too late that Meghan Markle was not adapting herself into the monarchy the way previous royal spouses had. Instead, many believed she was trying to reshape the environment around her. That distinction changed everything. Historically, royal spouses were expected to absorb the system. The institution always came first. Personal ambition came second. Public silence was considered loyalty. But Meghan Markle entered the monarchy from a completely different world, one where visibility creates power, where controlling your own story is survival, and where public sympathy can become more influential than centuries of tradition. To critics inside Britain's establishment, this created a dangerous collision between Hollywood-style branding and royal hierarchy. And in that collision, Prince Harry appeared increasingly isolated. Some royal insiders allegedly worried that Harry was emotionally vulnerable long before Meghan entered his life. He had spent years publicly discussing trauma, loneliness, resentment toward the press, and feelings of being trapped within the monarchy after the death of his mother, Princess Diana. Many believed he desperately wanted protection, understanding, and escape from institutional pressure. Meghan reportedly offered all three at exactly the right moment. That is partly why critics of the relationship often describe Harry not as manipulated in a simplistic sense, but emotionally overwhelmed. In their view, he was making life-changing decisions while driven by fear, loyalty, anger toward the press, and the unresolved psychological scars of royal life. This is where the alleged divorce clause rumors became even darker online. Again, no verified evidence has publicly confirmed the existence of a literal hidden contract. But the internet transformed fragments of commentary into an entire mythology surrounding the marriage. Some speculated there were discussions tied to media rights, future interviews, financial independence, custody implications, image control, or protections connected to Meghan's status if the relationship ever collapsed publicly. Others claim palace lawyers may have attempted to quietly prepare for worst-case scenarios behind the scenes. The theories multiplied because the marriage itself quickly became entangled with money, fame, streaming deals, memoirs, documentaries, and global publicity. It no longer resembled a traditional royal union. It resembled a billion-dollar narrative machine. Then came the interviews that changed public perception forever. When Harry and Meghan publicly accused elements of the royal family and the institution of mistreatment, racism concerns, and emotional abandonment, the monarchy faced one of its most serious modern reputation crises. Suddenly, the private tensions inside Windsor Castle became global entertainment. Every facial expression was analyzed. Every sentence became a headline. Every silence became suspicious. And while supporters viewed Harry and Meghan as victims who escaped a toxic institution, critics saw something else entirely. A strategic campaign that monetized royal conflict while simultaneously attacking the very system that gave them global status. According to commentators like Tom Bauer, this was the moment many people inside the establishment allegedly realized they had underestimated Meghan from the beginning. She understood modern influence far better than palace traditionalists. In the digital age, emotional storytelling often defeats institutional restraint. The monarchy depended on silence and controlled appearances. Meghan and Harry entered a media ecosystem driven by podcasts, streaming platforms, viral interviews, and personal branding. It was a battlefield the palace was never designed to fight on, and Harry, intentionally or not, became the bridge that connected those two worlds together. What makes the entire saga feel almost tragic is the possibility that Harry believed he was escaping control while unknowingly entering another system of pressure altogether. Royal life had rules, hierarchy, and obligation. Celebrity life has contracts, public image dependency, audience management, and relentless exposure. In many ways, he traded one institution for another. The difference was that the second institution operated through media economics instead of royal protocol. Critics argue that Harry failed to recognize how fame itself can become a form of captivity. Once personal pain becomes public content, there is no easy return to privacy. And perhaps that is why the rumors surrounding secret clauses, hidden understandings, and behind-the-scenes negotiations continue to fascinate people across the world. Because deep down, many suspect this story was never only about romance. It was about power. About two people entering marriage with completely different experiences of survival. One born inside an ancient institution trying to escape it. The other shaped by Hollywood culture, entering the biggest global platform imaginable. Somewhere between those two realities, trust, ambition, trauma, loyalty, and public image became impossible to separate anymore. As the years passed, the marriage between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle slowly evolved into something far bigger than a royal controversy. It became a symbol of two collapsing worlds colliding in public view. On one side stood the British monarchy, ancient, rigid, obsessed with continuity, secrecy, and survival through silence. On the other stood the machinery of modern celebrity culture, emotional exposure, media monetization, personal branding, and constant reinvention. Entrapped somewhere between those worlds was Harry himself, a man many now describe as emotionally torn between loyalty to his bloodline and loyalty to the woman he believed had saved him from it. One of the reasons the alleged secret clause narrative continues to survive online is because people increasingly began noticing how carefully structured Harry and Meghan's post-royal life appeared to become. After leaving the United Kingdom, they did not disappear into private obscurity. Instead, they entered one of the most aggressive public rebranding campaigns ever attempted by former working royals. There were major streaming deals, high-profile interviews, memoir releases, podcasts, speaking engagements, documentaries, and media partnerships worth millions. Critics questioned whether the departure from royal duties had truly been spontaneous or whether preparations had already been developing long before the public announcement. The speed of the transformation shocked many palace observers. To royal traditionalists, it felt almost unimaginable. For generations, royal family members operated under an unwritten understanding. You do not commercially weaponize the monarchy against itself. Yet suddenly, deeply private royal tensions became global content. Family conflicts became headlines. Pain became narrative currency. Personal trauma became a media product consumed by millions. And while supporters defended Harry and Meghan's right to tell their story, critics believed the couple had crossed a line that could permanently damage the institution's credibility. This is why commentators like Tom Bauer became so controversial. Bauer's investigations and commentary fed directly into public fears that there had always been a strategic dimension behind the relationship that Harry failed to fully recognize. Again, no confirmed evidence publicly proves a hidden divorce agreement existed. But the symbolism surrounding the idea became more powerful than any actual legal document could ever be. The clause came to represent something psychological, The suspicion that Harry may have entered the marriage believing love alone was guiding events, while other forces were already thinking several moves ahead. And perhaps the most painful element for Harry was the gradual collapse of trust within his own family. Reports emerged describing fractured relationships between Harry and Prince William, tensions with palace advisors, and emotional distance from King Charles III. To the public, these were tabloid stories. But beneath the headlines was something far more tragic. A prince who once walked beside his brother through unimaginable grief, now appearing completely cut off from the institution he was born into. The monarchy has survived scandals, abdications, affairs, and political crises for centuries. But internal emotional betrayal is something entirely different. Those wounds rarely heal publicly. Many royal analysts believe Harry underestimated how permanent his choices would become once the conflict escalated globally. Leaving royal duties was one thing. Publicly attacking the institution through worldwide media platforms was another. Every interview deepened the divide. Every accusation hardened public opinion. Every new project tied the couple's financial future more tightly to their royal narrative. And that created a dangerous cycle. The more the monarchy remained central to their public identity, the harder it became to ever truly move beyond it. Ironically, the very freedom Harry seemed to desire may have created a new dependency altogether. Outside the royal system, relevance still needed to be maintained. Public attention still needed to be fed. Streaming contracts required content. Publishers wanted revelations. Audiences demanded emotional honesty. In many ways, Harry escaped royal obligation only to enter the unforgiving economics of global fame. And fame can be even colder than monarchy because it depends entirely on public interest. Institutions survive generations. Celebrity relevance can disappear overnight. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle remained one of the most polarizing women in the world. To supporters, she represented independence, resilience, and survival against an outdated institution. To critics, she symbolized ambition, manipulation, and media calculation disguised as victimhood. Few modern public figures have generated such extreme division, and perhaps that polarization itself became part of the power dynamic surrounding the marriage. Because as long as the world remained emotionally invested in choosing sides, Harry and Meghan's story would never truly end. That is ultimately why the rumors surrounding hidden agreements and alleged clauses continue haunting public discussion. Not because people necessarily believe in some secret piece of paper hidden inside palace archives, but because the entire relationship came to symbolize uncertainty itself. Was Harry rescued from a cruel institution, or separated from his family by emotional influence and celebrity culture? Was Meghan unfairly targeted by the monarchy? Or did she understand from the beginning how to turn royal conflict into global leverage? The deeper people examine the story, the harder it becomes to separate truth from perception, strategy from survival, and love from power. What makes the entire situation surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle so emotionally powerful is that it no longer feels like a normal celebrity scandal. Over time, it evolved into something closer to a modern royal tragedy unfolding in slow motion before the entire world. Every new appearance, every interview, every public statement seems to reopen the same uncomfortable question. Can someone born into a centuries-old institution ever truly escape it without destroying part of themselves in the process? For Harry, the answer appears increasingly complicated. In the beginning, many people believed his departure from royal life would finally bring him peace. He spoke openly about wanting privacy, emotional healing, and protection for his family from the kind of media pressure that haunted the life of his mother, Princess Diana. But instead of fading quietly into a new life, Harry became even more exposed than before. His personal pain became globally consumable material. His memories became headlines. His anger became a commercial narrative. And critics argue that this transformation may have slowly trapped him inside a cycle he can no longer fully control. The release of interviews, documentaries, and especially Harry's memoir intensified that perception dramatically. For the first time, deeply personal royal conflicts were described in extraordinary detail by someone born directly into the monarchy itself. Private arguments, emotional confrontations, family tensions, and feelings of resentment were suddenly presented to the public in raw and painful language. Supporters saw honesty and courage. Critics saw betrayal. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. The bridge between Harry and the royal institution appeared to be collapsing beyond repair. That collapse is partly why rumors surrounding secret agreements and hidden legal protections became so psychologically believable to millions of people online. Again, no public evidence confirms the existence of a literal divorce clause signed without Harry's understanding. But many observers began interpreting the broader situation symbolically. They wondered whether Harry had emotionally committed himself to a future whose consequences he never fully calculated. Not because he was unintelligent, but because emotional vulnerability can cloud long-term judgment even for highly privileged people. Some royal analysts believe Harry entered the relationship carrying years of unresolved emotional conflict. He reportedly distrusted parts of the royal system, hated media intrusion, and feared repeating the emotional isolation he witnessed in his mother's life. Then came Meghan, confident, articulate, media-aware, and willing to openly challenge institutional norms. To Harry, she may have represented freedom. To palace traditionalists, she represented unpredictability. That difference in perception shaped almost every conflict that followed. Meanwhile, Tom Bower continued fueling public fascination through his commentary and investigations into the couple's rise and separation from royal duties. Bower's work resonated with critics because it painted a picture of calculated ambition operating behind the emotional public narrative. Whether fully accurate or not, his framing influenced how millions interpreted the relationship. Instead of seeing only romance and victimhood, many viewers began searching for hidden strategy, leverage, and power negotiation beneath every public move the couple made. The monarchy itself also contributed to the mystery through silence. Buckingham Palace rarely responds directly to allegations, speculation, or deeply personal accusations. That strategy historically protected the institution by preventing emotional public warfare. But in the digital era, silence often creates a vacuum filled by internet theories, social media narratives, and endless speculation. Every unanswered rumor grows larger. Every refusal to respond becomes interpreted as hidden confirmation by someone online. In that environment, stories about alleged clauses, secret negotiations, and behind-the-scenes royal panic spread almost uncontrollably. What many people overlook, however, is that this entire conflict likely reflects more than just one marriage. It reflects the crisis facing modern monarchy itself. Royal institutions were built in an age where public perception moved slowly and information remained tightly controlled. Today, influence moves through streaming platforms, viral clips, podcasts, memoirs, and emotional storytelling. Traditional authority struggles to compete against personal narrative. In many ways, Harry and Meghan exposed a vulnerability the monarchy was never prepared for. The inability to control its own story once insiders begin speaking publicly. And perhaps the saddest possibility of all is that everyone involved may genuinely believe they are the victim. Harry may believe he sacrificed everything for love and protection. Meghan may believe she survived an institution determined to reject her. The palace may believe it was unfairly attacked while trying to preserve stability. Even critics like Tom Bower may believe they are exposing truths hidden behind carefully crafted public images. That is what makes the story so impossible to fully untangle. Every side sees betrayal. Every side sees manipulation. Every side believes the other side misunderstood them first. And somewhere behind all the rumors about secret clauses and hidden agreements remains the deeper tragedy few people want to admit openly. the possibility that this was never a battle anyone could truly win. Because once love, trauma, monarchy, celebrity, money, family loyalty, and global media become fused together, the relationship stops belonging only to the people inside it. It becomes a spectacle consumed by the entire world, and spectacles rarely end peacefully. In many ways, the most haunting part of the story surrounding Prince Harry is not the rumors themselves, but the gradual transformation of the man at the center of them. Years ago, Harry was widely viewed as the rebellious but emotionally relatable prince, the younger son who struggled publicly with grief, made mistakes in front of cameras, yet still carried an unmistakable warmth that made people feel connected to him. He laughed easily, joked naturally with crowds, and often appeared more human than royal. But after the split from a monarchy and the years of escalating public conflict, many observers began noticing something darker in his public image. The humor seemed reduced. The spontaneity faded. Interviews increasingly carried exhaustion, defensiveness, and emotional tension beneath the surface. To critics, this became further proof that something deeper was happening behind closed doors. Online speculation exploded with theories that Harry had become isolated from old friendships, disconnected from parts of his family, and trapped inside a public identity built almost entirely around conflict with the monarchy. Again, much of this remains speculation amplified through media narratives and internet commentary. But the emotional shift visible to audiences fueled the idea that Harry may have sacrificed more than he expected when he chose to leave royal life behind. At the same time, Meghan Markle continued navigating the impossible reality of being one of the most scrutinized women alive. Every gesture became political. Every appearance triggered division. To supporters, she was a woman unfairly blamed for exposing problems that already existed inside the monarchy. To critics, she became the symbol of a new kind of celebrity influence entering an institution built on restraint. The truth may lie somewhere far more complicated in between. But complexity rarely survives in the age of viral outrage. Public discourse increasingly demanded heroes and villains, not nuance. That dynamic created a dangerous emotional economy around the couple. The more controversy surrounded them, the more attention followed. The more attention followed, the more media companies invested in their story. And the more the story became financially valuable, the harder it became for the public to separate genuine emotional pain from commercial narrative production. This is one reason the alleged secret divorce clause theory became so culturally powerful. It condensed years of public confusion into one dramatic symbolic idea, that hidden negotiations and unseen calculations may have existed beneath the emotional public image all along. Commentators like Tom Bauer understood exactly why that theory resonated. People are fascinated by the possibility that powerful institutions know things the public does not. And royal history itself encourages that fascination. The British monarchy has always operated through layers of secrecy, private advisors, legal strategy, and carefully controlled image management. From abdication crises to hidden affairs and succession tensions, royal survival has historically depended on protecting the institution above all else. That history makes modern audiences naturally suspicious that deeper arrangements may exist behind official narratives. But perhaps the most overlooked figure in this entire saga is not Meghan or Harry. It is the monarchy itself, because the institution found itself trapped in an impossible modern contradiction. If it publicly fought back aggressively against Harry and Meghan, it risked appearing cruel and vindictive. If it remained silent, it allowed accusations and speculation to spread unchecked. Buckingham Palace chose restraint, but silence in the digital era often looks weak rather than dignified. Every unanswered claim became fertile ground for endless online theories. And the monarchy, once one of the most carefully controlled image machines in the world, suddenly appeared unable to contain the narrative surrounding its own family. There is also a deeper psychological reason people remain obsessed with this story. Royal families function almost like modern mythology. Audiences project emotional fantasies onto them: love, betrayal, sacrifice, redemption, power, rebellion. Harry and Meghan's relationship touched all of those themes simultaneously. To some, Harry became the prince who chose his wife over an uncaring institution. To others, he became the heir who abandoned duty for celebrity culture. Meghan became either a courageous outsider, challenging outdated traditions, or a calculating figure who understood exactly how to leverage public emotion and global attention. The polarization became nearly impossible to escape, and yet behind all the analysis, rumors, and accusations remains one uncomfortable reality. Nobody outside the marriage truly knows what happens privately between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. That uncertainty is precisely what keeps the mystery alive. The alleged clauses, the hidden negotiations, the whispered palace concerns, all of it survives because the public sees fragments rather than the full picture. Humans instinctively fill missing information with stories that reflect their own fears and beliefs about love, ambition, power, and manipulation. Perhaps that is the final irony of the entire saga. The couple once claimed they wanted privacy and freedom from media intrusion. Yet they became one of the most dissected relationships on Earth, analyzed endlessly through documentaries, books, interviews, commentary channels, and royal investigations. Every expression is interpreted. Every silence becomes suspicious. Every rumor evolves into a global debate. And somewhere inside that storm, the line between reality and performance may have blurred so completely that even the people involved struggle to separate their private self from the roles the world has assigned to them. The longer the story surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle continues, the more it begins to resemble a cautionary tale about modern power itself. Not royal power alone, but media power, emotional power, and the dangerous ability of public narratives to reshape reality in real time. Because once a story becomes emotionally charged enough, facts alone are no longer what drives public belief. People begin choosing the version of events that reflects what they already want to believe about institutions, marriage, celebrity, and betrayal. That is why even years after their royal exit, discussions about hidden agreements and alleged divorce protections still dominate headlines and online forums. The rumors persist because they fit into a larger emotional narrative people have constructed around the couple. To critics, the alleged clause symbolizes manipulation hidden beneath romance. To supporters, the rumors themselves symbolize how aggressively Meghan has been targeted since entering the monarchy. Either way, the speculation never fully disappears because the public remains emotionally invested in the outcome of the relationship. And perhaps nowhere is that emotional investment stronger than in Britain itself. For many citizens, the monarchy is not merely entertainment. It is tied to identity, tradition, continuity, and national symbolism. Watching Prince Harry publicly separate himself from the institution felt deeply personal to many people who had watched him grow up since childhood. They remembered the young prince walking behind his mother's coffin. They remembered his military service, his charitable work, his humor, and his public vulnerability. To see that same figure become locked in open conflict with the royal family created a sense of emotional whiplash that still has not fully settled. Meanwhile, American audiences often interpreted the story very differently. In the United States, themes of independence, self-expression, emotional openness, and breaking away from restrictive systems are often celebrated. This cultural difference partly explains why reactions to Meghan and Harry became so polarized internationally. British royal culture values restraint and duty. American celebrity culture rewards authenticity, emotional storytelling, and personal reinvention. The couple ended up standing directly at the collision point between those two worldviews. Some analysts believe that cultural clash may have doomed the situation from the beginning. Meghan Markle reportedly expected openness, flexibility, and public communication in situations where the monarchy traditionally relies on silence and endurance. Harry, Meanwhile, Maya believed he could protect both his wife and his royal identity simultaneously. But institutions rarely adapt quickly, especially institutions built over centuries. An emotional loyalty becomes incredibly complicated when a person feels forced to choose between spouse and family, between love and duty, between personal happiness and inherited responsibility. This is where the narrative surrounding Tom Bower gained such influence. Bower's commentary resonated because it framed the entire relationship not simply as a romance under pressure, but as a high-stakes power struggle involving image control, institutional weakness, celebrity strategy, and emotional leverage. Whether audiences agreed with him or not, his framing transformed public discussion. Suddenly, people were no longer asking only whether Harry and Meghan were happy. They were asking who truly understood the game being played around them. And the uncomfortable truth is that modern fame itself may be the most powerful institution of all. Royal protocol can be escaped physically. Media ecosystems cannot. Once people become global symbols, they stop fully belonging to themselves. Their identities become public property, interpreted endlessly by strangers. Every action becomes symbolic. Every conflict becomes content. Every relationship becomes a storyline. Harry and Meghan may have left palace walls behind, but they entered a world where public attention never truly turns off. In some ways, that environment can be even more psychologically relentless than royal life itself. There is also growing fascination with what the future may hold for the couple. Online speculation about separation, financial pressures, career tensions, or image fatigue continues appearing constantly across tabloids and social media discussions. Again, much of it remains unverified speculation amplified by celebrity culture. But the reason audiences keep returning to these rumors is because the relationship has become bigger than the individuals involved. It now functions almost like an ongoing global drama where people project their own beliefs about love, ambition, trust, and power onto the couple. And yet, beneath all the noise, one possibility remains deeply unsettling. What if there was never a mastermind controlling everything from the shadows? What if the truth is simply that two emotionally complicated people entered an institution already struggling with its own identity crisis, and the pressure eventually shattered everyone involved? That explanation is less dramatic than secret clauses and hidden manipulation, but often reality is messier and sadder than conspiracy theories allow. Institutions fail to adapt. Families misunderstand each other. Emotional wounds distort judgment. Public pressure intensifies private conflict until even ordinary disagreements become impossible to contain. Perhaps that is why the story continues haunting public imagination years later. Not because people are obsessed only with scandal, but because Harry and Meghan's relationship exposed something larger about modern society itself. It revealed how difficult it has become to separate truth from branding, privacy from publicity, authenticity from performance, and love from strategic survival in an era where every personal moment can become global entertainment overnight. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the entire story is how impossible it has become to know where performance ends and reality begins. In the age of global celebrity culture, emotions themselves can become part of public branding. Pain becomes content. Vulnerability becomes influence. Personal suffering becomes a narrative consumed by millions of strangers online. And few public figures illustrate that transformation more dramatically than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. When the couple first stepped away from royal duties, many believed they were escaping a toxic environment that had emotionally damaged them both. Harry spoke repeatedly about fear. Fear of history repeating itself. Fear of media obsession. Fear of losing Meghan the same way he lost his mother, Princess Diana. Those fears resonated deeply with audiences because they felt emotionally authentic. But over time, critics began asking a darker question. If the goal was privacy and healing, why did the couple continue moving deeper into the center of global media attention? That contradiction became one of the central mysteries surrounding their public image. Every attempt to explain their suffering also seemed to expand their visibility. Every effort to reclaim control over their narrative made the narrative itself more commercially valuable. Streaming deals grew. Media interest intensified. Interviews became international events. Even silence from the couple generated headlines. They had become more than individuals. They had become an industry. This is partly why allegations and rumors surrounding hidden negotiations continue thriving. Once audiences suspect that public appearances may contain strategic calculations, they begin reinterpreting everything through that lens. A documentary is no longer just emotional testimony. It becomes image management. A memoir becomes leverage. A carefully timed interview becomes negotiation through public pressure. Whether fair or unfair, that shift in perception changed how millions viewed Harry and Meghan permanently. For some critics influenced by commentators like Tom Bauer, the relationship increasingly appeared less like a romance under siege and more like a collision between emotional vulnerability and sophisticated media awareness. Harry seemed driven by trauma, loyalty, and emotional instinct. Meghan appeared, at least to critics, more strategic, composed, and capable of navigating the mechanics of modern fame. Again, this interpretation remains heavily disputed and shaped by ideological perspectives. Supporters of Meghan strongly reject portrayals that frame her as manipulative or calculating. But the existence of those competing narratives reveals how fractured public opinion has become around the couple. Meanwhile, the royal family itself continued projecting an image of controlled endurance. King Charles III rarely addressed the conflict directly. Prince William largely avoided public escalation. Buckingham Palace maintained its traditional philosophy, survived the storm through silence. But many younger audiences no longer interpret silence as strength. In the digital age, people often expect emotional transparency. Institutions that refuse to participate in public emotional discourse can appear distant, cold, or even guilty by default. This generational divide transformed the Sussex conflict into something larger than a family dispute. It became a referendum on modern values themselves. Older institutional thinking emphasized duty, restraint, and sacrifice for the crown. Modern celebrity culture rewards openness, emotional honesty, and personal liberation. Harry stood between those two worlds, tried to reconcile them, while being psychologically pulled apart by both at the same time. And then there's the deeper issue few commentators openly discuss: identity. For most of his life, Harry's identity came from the monarchy. Even when he rebelled against it, his public role still existed within its structure. Once he stepped outside that system, he faced a difficult question that many former royals throughout history have struggled with. Who are you when the institution that defined your existence no longer surrounds you? Celebrity culture offered a replacement identity, but celebrity identity is unstable. It depends on public relevance, emotional engagement, and constant visibility. Royal identity is inherited. Fame must be continuously maintained. That instability may explain why speculation surrounding the marriage continues escalating instead of fading. Public fascination grows strongest when audiences sense uncertainty beneath the surface. And despite all the interviews, documentaries, and public appearances, uncertainty still surrounds almost every aspect of Harry and Meghan's relationship with the monarchy, with the media, and perhaps even with themselves. The alleged secret divorce clause became powerful because it symbolized hidden instability inside what was presented publicly as a love story powerful enough to challenge an empire. But maybe the darkest possibility is also the simplest. Perhaps there was never a single mastermind, hidden contract, or carefully orchestrated conspiracy controlling events from behind palace doors. Perhaps the tragedy emerged naturally from incompatible worlds colliding under impossible pressure. A prince shaped by trauma, an actress shaped by modern media culture, an ancient monarchy struggling to survive the digital age, a global audience addicted to emotional spectacle. Put all of those forces together, and conflict may have become inevitable long before anyone realized how destructive it would become. And that is what keeps people watching. Not just the rumors, not just the scandals, but the unsettling realization that beneath the titles, interviews, accusations, and speculation lies something painfully human. Two people trying to survive inside systems far larger than themselves, while the entire world watches every mistake in real time.